Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or maybe good night to all of you in different time zones, of course. Hi, my name is ERIAWAN KUSUMAWARDHONO, and this is my first videos on discussing or maybe sharing what I know and what I have experienced when I develop on the .NET platform, or right now it should be just .NET, not .NET Core, not .NET Framework, although most of the development is starting on .NET. So here we are, going to show slideshow. Okay, now a little bit introduction about me. I'm ERIAWAN KUSUMAWARDHONO. I'm based on Indonesia, and I'm MVP since 2012. Previously, I was F# MVP. Right now, I'm Visual Studio, or simply now it is called Developer Technologies. It goes on many topics such as not just .NET language, but also .NET Core, Azure DevOps, and open source projects. My LinkedIn is right here, or you can search by my name. My GitHub ID is ERIAWAN. I'm a member of .NET Foundation OSS project onboarding committee. Yep, please ping me for support for .NET OSS project on GitHub. So, before I tell you what I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to convey with this video series, I'd like to have a little bit introduction and overview on .NET itself. This is some kind of easy or loose definition of what is .NET. .NET is an open source developer platform created by Microsoft for building many different types of application. And this code I got it from Microsoft.NET web or landing page. So this is the URL. Basically, we can also say, yes, it is created by Microsoft, but since it is open source, I can just say it is created by most of the developers, because all of us can participate, can contribute, or not just submitting issues, feedback, but also you can submit PRs. You can also submit more like a proposal, let's say for new APIs, for example, which is now is very good. And it is not .NET Framework. So .NET Framework, I think I'm pretty sure, especially to my friends in Indonesia, most of them are very familiar on .NET Framework, not on the .NET Core itself. So .NET Framework is running on Windows only, which is why the emphasis is the .NET is cross-platform, and .NET Core, which is now .NET 5.0 and later, it is cross-platform. And since .NET 5.0, it is called .NET because it is developed with focus on .NET platform, and it also means that there will be no next version after .NET Framework version 4.8. And the last note is very important, because this doesn't mean .NET Framework is dead. It means that there is no further development on .NET Framework. So maybe if some of you are pretty confused about this, you can search on Microsoft.NET Teams blog. But it is safe to say that it has no further development again after .NET Framework version 4.8. There will be no .NET Framework 5.0, for example. The 5.0 is on .NET Core, and it is now being renamed or being called as just .NET. You having .NET Core or Core, for example. And yes, this is the general overview of what kind of target or device or platform that you can run .NET. I mean platform in a sense like mobile or desktop or microservices. So you can run or you can develop to have a web app, mobile app, desktop app, microservices, and you can run on cloud, no matter what have you, like Azure, AWS, or maybe GCP. Let me know if I missed something, or let me know if there is another cloud platform that can run .NET. And as far as I know, only those three can run for now. There is a support for machine learning development, game development, especially if you do the Unity, for example, Internet of Things. And this means that using a very small device such as Raspberry Pi or Arduino, you can make or develop an app for that. And you can also connect that app to Azure or to AWS, like using the hub or IoT hub, for example. But for now, I'm not going to describe all of these platforms. And yes, this is official because I copy this picture, this screenshot from the Microsoft.NET website. So I hope I'm not going to miss anything. So now what I'm trying to say, or what I'm trying to convey in this video series. So basically, I'm sharing, or I'm going to share what I have learned so far about .NET. And the way I'm going to share is by using the style of having someone or me doing a journey, like starting from the installation to understanding what's going on, what I'm trying to do in the first time I have done the installation, and all of those things. And then at the same time, I'm going to try to explain what is the current state of .NET since February 2022, by the time I create this video, starting from the current LTS release, the .NET 6.0. And also I would like to dive deeper, not just on .NET features like PCL, right now it's called just runtime. Runtimes, not just the CLR, but also on how to use the existing class libraries, and to ASP.NET, WinForms, WPF, and other things. Also try to, as deep as possible, going through the discussion on the tooling ecosystem, project system, and more. Maybe after I discuss the tooling ecosystem, I welcome more feedback. But feel free to send me comments or feedback, because as far as I know, your experience may be different. And we all know that .NET is developed using a very fast pace. The speed of the development of the .NET itself is very fast. So we will have an annual release. We all know that all of the versions will be released annually, and it is on a specific cadence on every November. Now that I focus on the .NET 6.0, this is an LTS release. That means that this version will be supported in about 3-year time frame. So initially released on November 2021, and the support is for 3 years, so you will still have support until 2024. But let's not just focus on the LTS. So we are willing to keep up on the Microsoft support lifecycle, of course. So that also relates on how do you use the tooling ecosystem, the project system, and more, because there can be every feature may be broken, may be replaced for better features, which is later I'm going to discuss about that. So let's start on the SDK demo. I'm going to switch to my command prompt here. So this is the developer command prompt for Visual Studio 2022. Why? Because I'm going to discuss .NET 6.0. And the .NET 6.0 is closely related to 2022. So I said it is closely related because it is coupled in the sense that if you want to use Visual Studio to develop it on top of .NET 6.0, it is a perfect pair because the Visual Studio support for .NET 6.0, it is provided by Visual Studio 2022 and later. So there is some kind of tables that describe these metrics. I'm going to open a browser to show you what I'm trying to convey here. Let's go to dot.net, which is easier to remember. And let's look at the all .NET 6.0 downloads. So right now the latest or current version is 6.0.101. So let me give you a quick overview how to decipher or how to quickly understand what's going on this page. So this 6.0.1 is the runtime version of .NET. The SDK is this version. So there will be some kind of map because this runtime 6.0.1 is released with the SDK of 6.0.101, and this comes with the metrics like we have here. So Visual Studio 2022 support 6.0.101, and this SDK, it is included if we are installing 17.0.3, which is this 17.0.3 is basically Visual Studio 2022. So if you look at the Visual Studio, now I'm going to open Visual Studio. Hopefully I open the correct version because, is this one? This is 2019, sorry. This one, 2022. So I have more than one version of Visual Studio. Why? Well, that will be obvious. My license is going to expire. But yeah, I will enable the license for this one because this one is I'm using Enterprise. But let's not worry about that for now. So let's look at the version of Visual Studio. We have 17.0.5. Yes, so 17 means it is 2022. .0 is the minor version of Visual Studio 2022, and 5 is usually the patch or the it is commonly called patch version of this 2022, and it's running on version 4.8. Before I go back to the command prompt, why I said before that .NET Framework is not developed anymore, it doesn't mean that it is dead. No. Why? Because Visual Studio is also using Microsoft .NET Framework. This Visual Studio that you see here is running on WPF. The WPF is the one that is first developed, and it is inside or part of the Microsoft .NET Framework. Right now, version 4.8. So you should not worry about, okay, I'm not going to have .NET Framework anymore. .NET Framework is dead. No. And I can say big no, because Visual Studio is still using Microsoft .NET Framework. And all of the components like these toolbars, windows is part of WPF. You may feel something silly about the look and feel, but don't worry, it is WPF. And yeah, if you look at the Microsoft blogs on Visual Studio, you will see that all of these are developed using WPF since Visual Studio 2010. Yep, 2010. Yes, okay. So this is 2022, and let's go back to the matrix first. This also means .NET 6.0 support is provided since Visual Studio 2022. So you can prove me if I'm wrong by trying to create a .NET 6.0 project inside the previous version of 2022, such as 2019, for example. You cannot do that because 6.0 requires Visual Studio 2022. But this doesn't mean that you have to use Visual Studio 2022 to develop .NET. There is no such thing, there is no such requirement for that. So basically, yes, you can use Visual Studio to develop application on top of .NET 6.0, but you don't have to use Visual Studio. You can use the the smaller version of Visual Studio, the what is the term for that? The Electron-based IDE, Visual Studio Code, for example. You can use that to develop. But if you want to develop some features of 6.0, especially if you develop your apps on WinForms, WPF, I suggest that you use Visual Studio 2022. And just to speed up your exploration, if you are starting to learn or starting to explore .NET, you can use Visual Studio 2022 Community Edition, which is free. And all of the demonstrations, presentation that I'm going to show you from now and later, I can assure you it will not require the paid version of Visual Studio unless I told you at first, or I told you before in front, like how do you create unit tests, for example. You create unit tests you can use on community. How do you create ASP.NET Core app? You can run it, you can develop on top of Community Edition. So because the way that Visual Studio use the template, it is also the same as the templates already available when you install .NET SDK. So right now I'm going back to my command prompt. Let's see what I have in my machine now. I type .NET space -- info. So it says here .NET SDK, the parenthesis reflecting any global JSON. So this means if on the directory that I run this .NET info has global JSON, it will try to use that global JSON. So is there a global JSON on my machine? No. No, only this one. There is no global JSON. So if there is no global JSON, it tries to use the latest SDK, which is the 6.0.11, which is this guy that I show here. So this is definitely the latest SDK, because the other versions that I have, such as 5044, and 31416 is not the latest one. The latest one is 6.0. And as you can see here, the HDK version is 60101 and the runtime is 601. Now that we have seen this, let's try to see what are the templates available. Hopefully I typed right. Yep. See here now we have ASP.NET Core, Blazor Server, Blazor WebAssembly, which is a cool one. It's available since .NET 5.0, this WebAssembly. And we have, of course, the old one, class lib, console. Well, now we have git ignore for .NET. And then we also have tool manifest, editor config, global JSON. This is also important. This file will drive how do you use or how do you develop on top of the .NET SDK with your own version, which I'm going to discuss in later videos. And other things such as the MVC, also unit tests such as MS tests. So if you look at the text, that gives you some kind of common categories. So MS test is part of the test / MS test. And if you look at the, where is it, NUnit, NUnit is test / NUnit, and also XUnit. So previously you will see only MS test and XUnit, but now we have the template for NUnit thanks to the support from communities, of course. And just to tell the story about this template, especially NUnit, on the previous version of .NET Core, NUnit was not included. So if you still have the .NET Core SDK of 1.1, 2.0, you will not see this as far as I know. So right now we have it. And also some kind of cool templates. We have worker service, and also right now we have some supports for Phoebe, although it is not that much, to be honest. So we still have support in WPF, WinForms, which is cool. Now I type on .NET new -h. -h is the shortcut of --help. So if I type .NET new -l, the full parameter name is list. That will give us the same list of templates that we have before. So this is very beginning after I install the Visual Studio. So there are two ways of having this on your machine. I mean, having this installed. The first one is you can just directly download from the .NET or dot.net, then click or select download. You'll see that the latest one is 60101, and then based on your operating system you choose what you need, and in this machine I choose x64 because I'm running Windows on 64-bit, and I usually develop my app, especially if you develop on ASP.NET Core, I usually try to focus on 64-bit because that is how my app is going to have a largest memory support as large as possible based on 64-bit architecture. And let's see, okay, there is a way to install the runtime. But I should say be careful. If you install the SDK, you have all of this runtime included. But if you are just installing the runtime, start from the .NET runtime first. And then, if you, let's say you are going to develop or to use WinForms or WPF, you use this one, .NET Desktop Runtime. So this runtime only does not include this desktop support runtime, which is why it will become clear on later videos. And this ASP.NET Core runtime is also included the runtime, but it says here on Windows we recommend installing the hosting bundle, which include the .NET runtime and IIS support. So you have to choose very carefully, and so this depends on how are you going to develop your app. On my own experience, I usually install the SDK first, 64-bit, and then I install hosting bundle if I want to develop on top of ASP.NET Core. Why? Because this SDK is not including the IIS support. You see, it has its own version, IIS runtime support, ASP.NET Core module version 2. So you have to install the hosting bundle after you install the SDK. If you develop on the server, I suggest you also install the SDK. Why? Because the SDK also includes this .NET Desktop Runtime. If you are only installing ASP.NET Core Runtime, this ASP.NET Core Runtime, as far as I know, it doesn't include the desktop runtime. And yes, you need Visual Studio 2022, which is why, how do you read these metrics? How do you read these tables? So you'll see that at the initial release of Visual Studio, it includes the SDK of 6.0, and since 16.0.3, it has 16.0.101. And if you install this on top of the existing Visual Studio initial release of 17.0.0, this guy will automatically update the 16.0.100. And now the SDK is 16.0.101. It is a little bit more like a mouthful. Okay. For now, let's not worry about how do I install these SDKs. You don't have to worry about that, because this usually comes with the SDK. And if I install Visual Studio, I should not be worried about the installation of the SDK, because it's installing out of the Visual Studio installation, which is nice. So for those like starting to learn .NET Core, it will be easier to start from the Visual Studio installation, which is you should not worry again. You can just use the Community Edition. Okay, now that we installed .NET, now that we have qualified, if you want to use the IDE, you can still use Visual Studio. And the Visual Studio I have is Visual Studio for Windows. You can also use Visual Studio for Mac if you have Apple Macintosh. But the Visual Studio 2022 for Mac is not yet released. So you may have to wait a little bit, or you can use Windows maybe for now, or you can use Visual Studio Code, which is fine. Let's go back to the okay. Let me check visualstudio.com just to check whether I can see it is released or not for Mac. Okay, download Visual Studio. Looks like it's released. Comprehensive IDE. Okay. As far as I know, this version is not the version that is equals to Visual Studio 2022. It looks like it is not released. I'll bring you the detailed explanation on next video, because this is something that I cannot just demo. Currently, I don't have a Mac on my location right now, so I could just demo it to you later on. And this version is for Mac definitely, and it's not the equal one. Or if we are going to have some quick start, we can also use Visual Studio Code, which is the small version of Visual Studio. And some say it is the little brother of Visual Studio, but I say it is somehow different, because Visual Studio Code is based on Electron shell. And of course, since it is based on the Electron shell, Electron is based on Google Chrome engine, the V8. That means that it can run easily and directly on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, which is now is also more popular than Visual Studio. Okay, for this time, I have given you the overview, and the way that we have now is .NET. Why I said it is more and more focusing on .NET Core, which is now just called .NET, because not just it's part of the fact that Microsoft is not going to develop .NET Framework further, but also the way that we have now, we try to endorse more support for cross-platform. I mean, I'm not just running this on Windows, but I can also run this on Linux, on Mac, except for, of course, the WinForms and WPF, because all of those technologies come from .NET Framework, which is only developed on top of Win32, which is, of course, Windows. So that should bring us to the next lesson, or to the next video series. How are we going to do with these SDK? How are we going to say, let's say, oh, I just want to have some kind of quick way to taste the development experience of .NET, and which is I'm going to deliver on next video series about the overview or the starting experience on the SDK itself. Okay, so this detailed discussion will be focusing on .NET SDK, and maybe in the meantime I'll try to switch between the command prompt and the Visual Studio, just to show you that all of these templates that we have here, it is also available in Visual Studio. Then, of course, it's only available on Visual Studio, which is only available on Windows. If we, let's say, install the .NET SDK on Linux, some of them will still be available. Some of them are not relevant, or it is useless. Let's say if you want to develop apps on WinForms, which is, you cannot do that on Linux, you cannot do that on Mac, for example. in the meantime, there is a very what is the term for that? A very fierce development, a very fast-paced development on the next roadmap of Xamarin. It is called MAUI. So the .NET MAUI will be available on around the time frame of Visual Studio 17.1, which is now, it is still in preview, I believe. And it is exciting because the .NET MAUI is the first client technology, especially on some kind of desktop way. The way you see that, although it is desktop, it also can run on. You can run on mobile, not just desktop. And it is using the same technology as XAML that comes from the Xamarin Forms. So it's going to be called MAUI, and you have to wait for the release. And it is being developed separately. It means it is not closely tied with the .NET, so it is not related on the .NET 6.0 release. I mean, if you say use EF Core, for example, Entity Framework Core, .NET 6.0 has Entity Framework Core 6.0 because EF comes with the same schedule, same release as .NET SDK. So you only have to focus on the progress on the .NET SDK or .NET itself. I would love to see what's going on MAUI, but unfortunately, I would like to have MAUI on the stable stages later, because right now the development is moving so fast, and I have to somehow rearrange my settings, my environment configuration, just to test MAUI, which is. And if you have some feedback or comments about that, let me know. Maybe I could discuss on how to make it run easily, because it's, for me, it's still not easy. Although there are some nice progress, like you don't need the MAUI upgrade or something after you install the latest release of this MAUI. Okay, so now we have some kind of initial roadmap or segue to what I'm trying to do on my next videos. And just to ensure that the detail of the installation that I show you here is basically easy in a sense that you just install the Visual Studio 2022 Community Edition and choose the necessary component to install Visual Studio with .NET Core SDK. So before I close, I'm going to show you the installation settings, my Visual Studio 2022 installation settings. If I click modify, this will show the workloads. Workloads means that features categorized as workloads, and inside these workloads is the list of the individual components that is needed for this. You can ignore the desktop development with C++. I installed this because I also want to contribute and participate on the development of the .NET Core itself, which is a little bit more like what is the term for that? It's more like a very deep and deeper, because the development of the .NET Core requires you to install C++. So I could share you my settings by, okay, this is the nice feature about this guy. Let me close this first, and I could export my configuration. Let's just save it on this one, vsconfig. And export this guy. Now we have this VS config. If we try to look at the content of this guy, okay, I'll just use Notepad for now. Open. So this is the list of the components that I have now. You don't have to have all of this, but as far as I know, if you also not just develop .NET Core apps, but also try to contribute to .NET Core, these are the components that you need to install on your machine, of course. Okay, I will share this VS config later on my GitHub keys after this video is uploaded and be shown on my YouTube channel. Now that I have shown all this necessary support and the initial overview of the SDK, let's see you on my next video about the SDK and how do we start to develop the .NET. Also, don't forget, if you have really wants to know, okay, I just want to install the SDK, fine, which is fine, you can still download from the dot.net/core here and choose download. I suggest you to always install the latest SDK release 6.0.11 at the time of this video is being made. Okay, I have done for this time now, and see you on next video. Now that we have come to the ending of this video, and don't forget to subscribe and like. Also, don't forget to press the bell icons on the videos, because that will give you notifications on the next video that I'm going to bring you. And also, don't forget to comment if you wish. That will give me a lot of feedback to be considered for the next videos and maybe for the next series, or maybe for other series as well. And thanks for watching. Bye bye.